Shalom. It's almost Shabbat here. In another hour right now, I'm standing outside my Hebron home in Beit Hadassah, and decided that before Shabbat, it would be really very important for me to reveal to you a secret. I know that once you put a secret on a video and post it, it's not so much of a secret anymore, but there are secrets that actually should not remain secrets. They should be made known. People, first of all, before I speak about the secret, people have been asking about the situation here in Hebron, and actually up until about an hour ago, things here were very quiet. In the Jewish area of Hebron, things are usually quiet, but on the perimeters outside of the Jewish community, there can be all sorts of episodes of rock throwing and fire bombs and the like, and then usually the reaction of the armed forces is to utilize either tear gas or stun grenades, or when things are a little bit more serious, so they can use rubber bullets. And you know when something's going on because you hear big booms in the background, and they started about a half hour, 45 minutes ago. Perhaps in the next couple of minutes you'll hear some booms, and that's what we're talking about. You also know what's going on because using your sense of smell. I'm actually waiting impatiently for an application to be developed whereby when I bring my phone outside and turn on the application, and if you have the same app, then you'll be able to smell what I smell. It gives you a little bit more of a sense of what's going on. For example, here, when there's tear gas in the air, or the odor of burning tires, or when the army, to disperse rioters, uses some kind of smelly kind of water. And we're privileged to be able to inhale all of those beautiful smells. And if one day there is an app which lets you smell what I smell via your cell phone, so it's be really worthwhile downloading it. In any case, one of the things that I've been thinking about for the past few days, and I actually saw it in an article, a very good article in the blog Times of Israel, written by my friend and colleague Ruthie Lieberman, spoke about one of the reactions of the Arabs to the announcement that Jerusalem has been recognized by the United States as the capital of Israel, is of course the use of violence, and that's considered to be legitimate. I mean, anytime you don't like something, everybody knows a 3-year-old, for example. So a 3-year-old, you tell them they can't have another cookie, or they have to finish their dinner, or they have to drink the milk. So they get upset, and they start stamping their feet up and down, and they make faces, and maybe they'll even reach a stage where they'll pick up a toy and throw it, or they'll stamp their feet. I mean, this is a known reaction and consequence of that a parent has to face with their children. And these are the kinds of consequences that we have to face dealing with the Arabs. As soon as somebody does something or says something that they're not particularly happy about, so they start stamping their feet and kicking and making faces, and they throw things. They throw rocks and they throw fire bombs. And there are a few terrorist attacks here and there. Sometimes they knife people, or they try to shoot people, or little things like that. And a lot of people see that as a legitimate reaction. And if I do that, then I'm a violent extremist Jew living in extremist Jewish community of Hebron. When an Arab does that, a kilometer from here, so he's just a poor guy who's who has no other way to react. So he tries to kill people, and that's something that we have to keep in mind. This is who we're dealing with. This is the kind of reaction, not even reaction, action, that these people have been living by for the last 1,600 years. This is the way they began, or 1,400 years actually, from about 620, 630 when Muhammad was alive. Since then, up through today, they call it living by the sword. And actually, I saw today a film put out by MEMRI, MEMRI, with a cleric, I guess a sheikh from Kuwait, whose name is Salim Al-Tawil. You can look him up if you want on the MEMRI website, MEMRI. His name is Salim Al-Tawil. And he said that that offensive jihad, in other words, to take the offensive, means to try to conquer the infidel and force him to convert to Islam. Or if not, then the next best thing is to enslave them. And this is considered to be positive. This is a step in Islam. There's another one that I saw speaking again about the use of violence to obtain their desires. In other words, as we've heard many times in the past, the ends justify the means. And the means can mean using violence, trying to kill people one by one or en masse, and that's a legitimate way to get across the fact that you're upset about something that happened. And that's where our little secret comes in. The secret is this. One of the immediate calls following the Trump speech in Jerusalem, immediate, from the Arab leaders both in Ramallah, from the Palestinian Authority, from Abu Mazen, the president of the Palestinian Authority, and coming out of Gaza, Hamas, and coming out of Lebanon, of Hezbollah, Nasrallah. They all say straight out that one of the more likely results of this decision is going to be an intifada. Now, intifada, loosely translated, means uprising, okay? And in Israel, we've had to deal with several of these uprisings. As such, there was what was called the knife intifada about 2 years ago, when a number of Israelis were killed by Arabs in the streets in Jerusalem and around the country. There was an attack right behind me here where a soldier was almost killed. Fortunately, one of my friends and neighbors here was at the scene and was actually able to eliminate the terrorist before he killed the soldier. And we're talking about matters of seconds. There was an Israeli man from Kiryat Arba, of the road, who was stabbed and killed down the road from here by the Tomb of the Patriarchs. And they called it the knife intifada. We had the first intifada in the late 1980s, going into the 1990s, when hundreds of Jews were killed on the roads, drive-by shootings, and other terrorist attacks. And then, of course, the second intifada that we had to deal with, beginning at the end of the year 2000, for over 2 years, when about 1,500 Jews were killed. 1,500 Jews were murdered. Here, where I'm standing at Beit Hadassah, we were shot at for 2.5 years. It was pretty horrible, and it cost a lot of lives. A lot of people were also wounded. Now, that was, they called an intifada or an uprising. But excuse me, it's cool out here. But I think that actually there's another translation for intifada. Today, intifada is, and this is very important, and it's a big secret, but I'm letting the cat out of the bag so that you people can take this and run with it and make sure that people know about it. Actually, an intifada is jihad. An intifada, again, is jihad. It's a use of armed violence to try to achieve your goals. In this case, as the Arabs are saying, in Jerusalem is Palestinian. It only belongs to us. The Jews have no rights to be there. And as a result, they're going to use whatever means they can in order to make that clear and in order to change the decision made by President Trump and the decisions that are being are close to being made by other countries who are also going to accept Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. So because now Jerusalem has been declared by the United States the capital of Israel, so that's why you have Arabs rioting in Hebron, and you have Arabs rioting in Ramallah, and you have Arabs rioting in Jerusalem and in Tulkarem, and all over the place they're rioting because they don't like the idea of Jerusalem being declared the capital of Israel. That is a form of jihad. And we all know, as I told you, what the Arab sheikh out of Kuwait said, that actually the purpose of jihad is to force the infidels, in other words, me and you, and our kids and our grandkids, to force us to either accept Islam or to be enslaved, or if that doesn't work, then the only thing they have to do is kill us. That's also on the board. It's jihad. Intifada equals jihad. And this has to be known. Intifada is not just a little boy kicking and screaming and throwing toys at his parents. Intifada is bloodshed. Intifada is murder. Intifada is an attempt to destroy the state of Israel. And you also, in the United States, saw a little bit of jihad back on 9/11. You've seen a little bit of jihad all over the world, in Germany and in France and in Spain and in London and you name it, okay? That's jihad, that's intifada, it's an uprising. It's an attempt to show who is the boss, and they say they're the boss. And by their way of thinking and their way of doing, that means jihad, that means violence, that means killing. This is what they want, and this is what they're going to continue to do. But we have to work very hard to destroy any kind of legitimacy that anybody might want to credit them and say that, oh, jihad and intifada is just a little uprising. It's just demonstrations. Civil disobedience. Civil disobedience, nonsense. Intifada is jihad. And there's nothing more illegitimate than that. This is David Wilder speaking to you outside of Beit Hadassah in Hebron. Shabbat Shalom.